Chemmagate, talking from callstats.io, talking about the emergence of WebRTC in new verticals. So, Binoy, take it away.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are not like hungover from last party. So I'll just start off. So I'm Binoy. I'm a product manager from CallStats. So if you don't know much about CallStats, I will give you a 5-second pitch. So CallStats is a SaaS product which offers WebRTC monitoring and analytics. So I'm also in charge of the partnerships. So if you're an SDK which would like to integrate with CallStats, then you can contact me. Or if you'd like to partner with CallStats, then also you can contact me. So today we are going to cover actually the emergence of real-time communication in new verticals. So the second part is about the WebRTC industry report, which we publish quarterly, which gives you insights about all the WebRTC analysis and metrics that we actually monitored over like 4 years. So we publish this quarterly. You can actually go to our website and download that. And the third part of it is actually white papers. We actually follow the trends that is in the RTC community. So it could be related to how contact centers are transforming or adopting WebRTC, or how do you choose an RTC solution when you have to choose one. So we have been noticing a lot of like off-road like use cases in the last 1 year where people have been using callstats.io for like surveillance or AR, VR type of use cases. So this made us think like, okay, we want to explore more and then figure out like what are the new emerging verticals that are like in the real-time communication or in the WebRTC spectrum. So we contacted one of the leading industry analysts, Dean Bubley, to write a white paper for us on emerging RTC use cases, which is mostly the talk is based on. So you can actually get a copy of this at the end of the talk so that you can go to our booth and then grab your own copy of this. So today we are going to cover like the traditional, real-time communication, what it comes to your mind when you hear like real-time communication, and the evolution of RTC across like, time, and also the main drivers that has been like fueling the growth of RTC. Then some definitions about what do you mean by all these verticals and horizontals in RTC space, and some of the use cases that we have seen in callstats.io perspective and also from the industry perspective. So what comes to your mind when you hear the word real-time communication? So at least in my mind, it's mostly in 3 categories. So it could be like regular telephone, which is either wired or cellular phones, or voice services like Skype or Vonage like services, or team collaboration or team communication applications like GoToMeeting or WebEx. So is it all about WebRTC, like all this real-time communication? Not really. So the evolution of RTC is mostly based on platforms. So there has been more and more platforms that being like added to RTC. So for example, telcos and UC communication platforms are adding like extending their services, and they're also adding pure RTC type of solutions. And there are like a lot of cloud-based platform service providers which are offering more and more solutions. Then we look at like more context. So there has been like more and more verticals adopting RTC. For example, banking services offer now know your customer service, where you can actually talk to the bank executive. Or there are like telemedicine companies offering like consulting through like their platforms. Or you can actually interact with the video in gaming platforms. Then there has been like more formats. It's not about 2 humans communicating. It can be like a human communicating to a machine, or it can be a 3-way communication where there is a machine that is like sitting in between the human and another human. So for example, one use case would be like real-time natural language translation. Then there are like more use cases like more formats like always on RTC. So for example, one of the things that Varun mentioned in his talk yesterday was like some companies actually let their RTC solutions run from Monday to Friday, or even turn it on all the time. And there is always also more formats like always on RTC and live streaming. Then if you look at like more processing, so it's not just about like talking to each other, but we also record that data and then do some machine learning, NLPs, and all that AI-based solution. So most of the services now offer some kind of AI-based solution. So there is more and more processing that is happening on the RTC side. So what are the main drivers for this RTC growth? So I hope all of you know this picture. So this is a picture of the macaque ape Naruto. So a photographer named David Slater left his camera in a zoo, and then Naruto went and picked it up and took a selfie. So basically, there was a big legal battle between like PETA and then David Slater in terms of agreeing like who owns the picture, who owns the copyright of this picture. So this went on for 6 years, where actually David Slater spent a lot of money in settling that legal battle. So why I brought it up was like the selfie is becoming a social trend, where actually psychologists are actually publishing papers on it. And also there are like for telephone manufacturers who are producing like high resolution front end cameras rather than the rear end cameras. So selfie has become an industry changer in that way, like hardwares are adopting that. So if you look at some raw numbers, YouTube is adding a lot of like vloggers every day. So they are clocking like millions of views. And if you look at like Snapchat, they have 200 million daily active users. Okay, we can always say like, okay, they are mostly like the teenage group, but still 200 million daily active users is a huge number. Then in 6 months of releasing WhatsApp voice, there has been like 55 million calls per day that's been clocked. And after 2 years of releasing Facebook Live, there has been like 3.5 billion live broadcasts that's been done. So the number that we are talking is like really big in terms of like RTC growth. Then let's look at some of the commercial drivers that's been there. So for an RTC product to be like complete, let's imagine that it needs to have some kind of LCD display, which should be mostly like to interact with it or to look at the other person. And then to give some input, you might need a camera or like a sensor or something similar. So the prices of LCD screen have become like 1/3 of what it used to be in early 2000. And the same goes with camera, and sensors come probably under like $10. So if you want to build an RTC device, it costs you like probably less than $100. So all this has actually contributed to like moving more people using like real-time communications. So what are some of the use cases that you see in a day-to-day basis? For example, what you see while on your car display panel when you're reversing the car, it's basically a display panel, a camera, and a sensor behind. So that actually brought more RTC use cases. And then if you can think about Ring, which actually is a doorbell company which offers like videos. So for example, it has a proximity sensor. You can actually look at if someone is like actually coming to your door, then it can sense that, okay, there is someone actually around the door or there's a movement. And then when you click the button, it actually produces like a video of the person and you can see like who is at your door. So there are like so many practical uses of this RTC cases because hardware becoming more and more cheaper, and then you can connect all that to build a solution. Then other commercial drivers are being, for example, in the early days, the people who can actually handle, or the developers who can actually handle the audio and video was so limited. But more and more people are interested in now the RTC industry, mainly because as a growing ecosystem of like RTC platforms and providers. So if you think about it, like there are providers like Twilio, Talkbox, Nextmo, Plivo, or Jitsi. They're all offering like high-level APIs by which you don't need to have the in-depth knowledge of audio and video, but they make it very simple for all the developers to actually play with the audio and video elements. And there has been like more and more integrators coming into this picture. For example, our sponsor of this event, so NimbleApe or WebRTC Venture or Blackspot Media, all these consultants and integrators have been growing in the space. And there has been like monitoring and testing services. For example, there is Callsets.io, and there are like load testing services like TestRTC. So all these providers and integrators and monitoring services have been contributing quite a lot towards the RTC. Then what are some of the technical drivers? So there has been an increase in the RTC capable connectable devices. So basically, if you think about machine-to-machine communication, most of them are adopting 3G and 4G networks. Why? Because there is a wider spectrum so that everyone can connect. And then there is like global standard, so you don't have to worry about the interoperability between the devices. And also one of the other things that has been growing is the edge computing, or the effect of edge computing. So last week there was the W3C meeting for the WebRTC next version in Stockholm. So one of the main topics they discussed was about effect of edge computing, so that the processing is mostly done on the local end rather than sending it to the server. So more and more processing is done on the user end, which reduces the latency, and also since you're doing a lot of pre-processing, lesser data is being sent to the network. So, and most of us can relate to this picture because this is like AI. So AI has been contributing a lot towards RTC. So initially I was explaining about like how all the speech recognition and all that coming into play. So if you think about all the voice assistants, they are making use of all the deep learning and neural network capabilities, and then they are growing in that space. Same goes with emotion detection. For example, if you're in a room and if most of us, you are like sleeping off, then basically, the image recognition can like actually make use of that and then figure out like who are interested in the talk and who are not interested in the talk. So AI has been growing in this space and has been providing a lot of insights, which has been fueling the growth of RTC. So what is actually a vertical and what is actually a horizontal? So any business sector where RTC has provided a use case, or RTC has improved the use case, or improved the workflow of a business sector, that's basically a vertical. So vertical is just a business sector, and horizontal is an RTC function which spans across all these verticals. So if you look at like in the past, basically it was all about messaging, like SMS and calls, like direct one-to-one calls, or recording those calls, or multi-party calls, which is like conferencing. But in the future, it's moving more towards like artificial intelligence, or natural language processing, and live streaming with like millions of people connected, or like asymmetric sessions. So without further ado, I'll just jump into the use cases that we have come across. So these are like known use case. For example, team collaboration. This has been there forever. So how do you actually collaborate within your team? So you go through your emails. You have like Skype for Business or GoToMeeting or some kind of conferencing solution, and you talk to people. But that has moved away from like all that emails to threaded conversation, rooms, and in-call like or in-app like calls, like video or audio call, and emojis, and everything has changed that spectrum. So one of the new players are, for example, Slack, and the other one is like Cisco Spark is there, which is also providing similar services. So what is the future actually looks like for this team collaboration? So one of the use cases that I want to bring in team collaboration is actually VR space. So for example, imagine that you can be in a VR space and you can actually do pair coding, and you can actually collaborate with your peers, and you can watch Netflix or play games with your peers. So one of the company I would like to showcase here is the big screen, and there is a screenshot coming right after this. And the other use case would be indexing of like audio and video interactions. So basically, imagine that you have been on a long vacation and you come back, and then you need to go through all your emails, you need to go through all the threaded conversations where you have been mentioned, and this is a tedious task. And if you have like thousands of emails to go through, it's not possible. So if the audio video interactions are like indexed, basically you can go and say like, hey, show me all the conversations where my name was mentioned, or show me all the conversation as certain product name was mentioned. So that way you can play back or listen to the audio or video part of it, where you can actually see like, okay, what is the importance of that particular conversation. So the big screen which I spoke earlier, so you can imagine, so this will be something. So in a virtual space, you can actually hang out with your buddy, and you can actually do pair coding or do design tasks, or play games or watch Netflix or anything that you can think of. Then the next vertical is actually online education. Online education is not new. It's been there for a while because all of us watch YouTube while making a new dish, or following a recipe, or learning about a new topic or anything. And there has been like the MOOC kind of services like Coursera, EDX, Udemy, which have like pre-recorded like videos from professors from very big universities, and then you can also do assignments or you can interact with it. But that is also changing to more like real time. So it's been more moving towards, like, for example, one-to-one coaching or teaching. So there is a company in Finland called Yoga, which is basically teaching yoga online. So it can be like one-to-one. So you can have a personal yoga instructor who will teach you through your mobile app or your PC or something similar. And then you can learn a new musical instrument. You can also like have like support groups where if you are recovering from something or you need help with that, and also you have like personal assistants for styling and shopping kind of things. So online education has also been inventing in the RTC space. The next one is actually healthcare or fintech. This is a very huge vertical, but there is a catch there. So it's a very privacy or security concerned vertical. So anything you do, it has to have like highly secure, and people are really conscious about the privacy of the people who are involved. So you cannot like really play with the PII information, like for example emails or phone numbers or anything. So everything has a restriction on this particular healthcare. So healthcare, when you think about healthcare and RTC, the first thing that comes to your mind is basically telemedicines. So it's not just about like going to a portal and then talk to your doctor and then get some prescription. And it has already moved away from all that. It has, like, for example, there is a company in Israel which provides like medical devices which can monitor your blood pressure, blood sugar, or body temperature, or you can check the heart rate, and it's all reported to your doctor in real time. So they offer all these equipments, and you can buy them at a very cheap price, and actually you can have your own set of equipments which will measure all your vital statistics, which will be like reported to your doctor. So that's one way the healthcare is actually moving forward. And the other way is, like, for example, there are like video solutions for paramedics. So they can actually get help when in emergency cases where they can consult with the expert and then get help. And moving to the next vertical, so which is surveillance. Surveillance is like a very old vertical, but at the same time, you can think about like the thousands of hours of video that surveillance or the CCTV cameras have been recording and then sending out. And this is mostly like stored like in a very low quality for storage issues, or like to reduce the storage. And the human operator has actually go through all these videos to actually figure out like, okay, what went wrong in that particular case. So this is like, this can be automated, and real-time communication has been like playing a lot of like role in there, mainly with the help of AI. So one is the face recognition. Imagine like detecting a criminal in a crowded airport, or lost child in a crowd, or anything that is related where you can make use of the image recognition and AI technologies. Or you can also look at the license plate of vehicles, where you can actually look at if someone is breaking the law, or the driving habits of people can be like actually deciphered from surveillance. And it's not just for security that surveillance is used. Surveillance is also used in, for example, food processing, so that you can be sure that certain health standards are followed. Or it's also used in like factory settings, or rather like in enforcing the safety equipment used in factories. So RTC has been like growing in surveillance as well. And we talked about AI and conversational devices. So all of us are familiar with like Siri and Alexa, and most of us would have seen the demo that in Google I/O where Google Duplex is making an appointment with the hairdresser. So that is like one part of the use case where it's instruction based. So future is more like it can be instruction based, where you can get like, okay, I want to make this particular dish, so can you give me the steps or cooking recipes, so that the conversational device is giving you instructions. Car navigation has been there for always, but it can be advanced. And also GE has invented a new technology, or rather not technology, have been using the Apple's AR kit for helping their factory workers. So for example, which bolt should I tighten first? Or how should I actually dismantle a particular machine? Or how we should rotate that? So there has been a lot of inventions going on in that conversational side of it. And also, for example, if I want to start a meeting with Varun, then I would start like, okay, start a meeting with Varun, and Alexa sets up the meeting for me. So this is mostly like instruction based. It can go to the next level where you're actually standing in front of, for example, Alexa or Echo Show or something similar, and it tells you like, okay, probably you need a haircut. So it can go to the next level, or it can also be a bit creepy if it starts to say like, okay, you need a haircut, or this cloth doesn't fit you, or there has been certain profiling or something that's been done as well. So next part is actually about automobile communication. So vehicular communication has been there forever. So cars communicating with each other, cars talking to the satellites, having some internet connectivity in the car. So all of that's been there. And calling, like, for example, calling the AAA service in US, or calling an emergency number, that's been incorporated in US and EU market. So what is like the next thing that is there? So in terms of like vehicular communication, Nexar is one good example. So Nexar is an AI-based dash cam, which will turn on and off based on the anomaly detection, like you're speeding or you're like sudden braking. So this can be used also to actually look at the obstacles or people on the road. And if you actually meet with an accident, then basically the recording can be used to, for insurance claims. So Nexar has been helping a lot of drivers across US to, drive safe. The other example is actually Drive AI. So Drive AI is like autonomous driving system, which actually has a lot of cameras around and then sensors, and it makes sure that there is no humans are needed to actually drive around. So one question comes to my mind. So how many of you can actually parallel park? Okay, that's a good number. And so one of the things is that I sometimes struggle with parallel parking. So there is assisted driving, by which if you want to actually park in a tight spot, then you can actually use Drive AI, and then Drive AI would actually park it for you, so that you don't have to worry about like scratching someone's car or scratching your own car or whatever be the case, right? So automobile communications have also been inventing a lot in the RTC space. So summary of my slide. So basically we went through the evolution of RTC. So what are the main drivers that's been like fueling the RTC growth, and some of the use cases. So this is not all, right? There are a lot of verticals, there are a lot of use cases. So if you would like to know more, then you can grab the copy from our booth, and then you can learn more about what are all the emerging RTC use cases. So, thank you. Any questions?
So are these use cases that you are seeing on call stats? Do you see all of these on call stats yet, or are some of them more sort of hypothetical at this stage?
Some of them we have actually seen in call stats. So some examples I've given are, we have seen customers actually implementing, and that's what fueled the, the investigation, like what actually is, the new things in RTC space. And some of them are like, which is like upcoming, which is like, on a very minor basis, but not really like what something we cooked up. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm interested in whether you've seen any pattern to the way that the business model is changing. So like, kind of obviously we're not charging by minutes, but what are people charging by? How does it work financially?
So that is a very good question, because we are also kind of like in transition with all the pricing part of it. So charging can be done in two ways, right? Either it's like, the time you have been using the service, so it's like user minutes or, minutes or whatever be the case. And it can also be based on like events. So if you are actually using the service for, you're sending some events to the service, then basically you can charge by that events. And that events will cost you, like as a data point, it will cost you some kind of certain amount of money. And that is one model that we have been seeing.
So just to add to that, outcome. So you, like Nextcloud is exactly this case where it's a free thing. Put it in your dashboard and it runs for you all the time. It's only when you make an insurance claim that you have to pay them. So basically it records all the video for free all the time. And then when something happens, you say, oh, I want this part of the video, then it gets activated.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks so much, Binoy. We appreciate it.
Thank you.